today we're talking about Buddhism in a very kind of 101 kind of way, because there's so much to know, there's so much to learn, and I have only kind of started my journey into these ideologies. When I lived in Korea, I went through a very, very dark time, which we'll talk about on another day. But because of that, growing up in a way that like God doesn't love you anymore if you commit these certain sins, I was like, well, what am I gonna do? Like, you know, so I was looking for something new. And my aunt said, you know, you should read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. And it just blew my mind. It was so challenging because Tolle's talking about the words of Jesus, the words of Buddha, you know, Rumi, all of these ideas leading us into a place of peace and centeredness and presence and, you know, embodying ourselves in a way that is letting go of ego and our pain body, which is amazing. If you haven't read that book, please read it. Please read it. If you're someone who grew up Christian and you're kind of like starting to redefine your spirituality, it is a fantastic way to become kind of centered and to see things in a different way. You may not agree with every single thing that he's saying, but it's such an important book to me. So today we're talking about non-attachment. Basically, Buddha, the original, the OG Buddha, said one main thing, and that is there are 4 noble truths. 4. 1, suffering is universal. So life is pain, basically. Dun, 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 right? So if you've seen Princess Bride, life is pain, Highness. Buddha also said that. 2, second noble truth is the origin of suffering is attachment. So, yeah. So we're gonna go into that a bit. Number 3, the cessation of suffering or the end of suffering is attainable. Number 4, the path to the end of suffering is non-attachment. Okay. So I want you to think about everything in your life that you are attached to, whether it's your house, your job, your boyfriend, your whatever that you are attached to. Some of these things feel like the most natural thing in the world, right? You're attached to the people that you love. You're attached to having a home. You're attached to your profession, your calling, whatever. But it's that attachment and kind of attaching our identity and ourself to these things that actually make us miserable in the long run. Now, Eckhart Tolle says in A New Earth, he says, the keys to true freedom and enlightened living are non-resistance, non-judgment, non-attachment. Okay, so this is what the Buddha is saying, but kind of up a level. Not up a level, but it's building on what he's saying. What he said. So I am in a place right now where I could be, and sometimes am, in very high anxiety. And this is because I'm being rent evicted. Actually got the eviction notice today. So, Vancouver. So I'm being rent evicted, which means if it goes through, I'll be out and have to look for a new place, and my rent will go up at least 60%, probably, at least. And my car got hit, and now it's in the shop, and there's all this like questioning. Yeah, and I'm in the music industry, and that is always a source of anxiety, and my voice and my music is so much a part of me and my calling as a human being that it can be a huge source of anxiety. But why is that? Why is it that you get an eviction notice, or you get fired from your job, or your vehicle gets hit, or your calling gets called into question, and you are triggered and full of anxiety and depressed and full of anxiety, or say it again, and you suffer. We suffer because of our attachment to these things, right? Because I think this is my apartment, this is my car, and they are an extension of myself, right? Which means if something happens to them, myself is in jeopardy. Whereas if I don't feel attached to them and I trust that the universe is kind and that the universe is on my side, that if I look back, for example, I lost a job, I got a better one. I left a job, I got a better one, right? And if you look at the through line of your life, it is an upward trajectory in general, right? If you look at any of those charts, they're kind of gonna go like this, right? But the overall trajectory is up. So learning not to resist, first of all, Eckhart Tolle says non-resistance. So I get the initial eviction notice for my place. And instead of being like, this shouldn't be happening, and telling a story, this is gonna come back. The storytelling is what kills us, right? The story is, this shouldn't be happening to me. This is unfair, resist, right? Or even you're getting sick and you're like, I don't wanna be sick, I shouldn't be sick, I can't be sick. You're resisting it, right? Instead of being like, this is how it is. I don't know how it's gonna go. I don't really know what this is gonna be in my story. If it's gonna be, thank goodness I lost that job because now I'm in this really great place. Thank goodness that guy broke up with me because now I met this really great guy, right? So thank goodness, whatever, but it always seems to be that way, right? 2 years down the road, you're like, thank goodness I'm not still working at that restaurant where I was making almost no money and I had to keep my personality and my calling under wraps because it made people uncomfortable. Whatever, right? So non-resistant. 2, non-judgment. So we want to label things to make ourselves more comfortable, right? This is bad. This is good. This person is whatever. When we see people on the street, we do this rapid labeling, right? You're walking down the street, asshole, ugh, she's ugly, ugh. And sometimes you label them in a positive way, but can you learn to watch yourself and observe yourself labeling everything, judging everything, So you tell a story, you say whether whatever is happening is good or bad, right? And then it's it's calcified. It's in there. It's not just something that's passing by and you don't know how it's gonna go, and so you allow it to exist, right? And then non-attachment. So this is not good or bad, this is, right? I'm not gonna resist what's happening, I'm just gonna allow it to be. So somebody hit my car, left a phone number that I thought was fake, right? Because I tried it, what I thought was every combination, and I told a story. This guy, typical Vancouver, typical these people who don't care about one another and are totally selfish and, not like the rest of Canada where we're really, considerate and wonderful. I told that story and then I tried one more number, one more differentiation, and I got him. So that whole story I was telling was bullshit, right? Or a guy ghosts you and you start telling a story about why he disappeared. And it makes you miserable. And you go well, what did I do wrong? And well, maybe he's just really busy, or, everything that you're telling yourself is a way of judging the situation and also resisting the fact that he's gone, right? Eckhart Tolle talks about the story of 2 monks and they're walking through this long journey in Japan. They're hiking, they're going on this long journey and in silence. And they get to this kind of big mud puddle and there's this beautiful woman in a silk kimono who can't get around it. So one of the monks just picks her up over his shoulder and carries her across through the puddle, puts her down on the other side, right? And the 2 monks keep on walking, and a few hours later, the other monk says to the guy that picked the girl up, he goes, I can't believe that you picked that woman up. We're not supposed to touch women. And the other monk said, I put that woman down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? So this is the point, is that when you judge the situation, when you talk about a guy who's left you, ghosted you in your head or even out loud or even to your girlfriends, and you tell a story about him, you are still carrying him with you. You are still carrying the pain of that with you. When you could be going, in the moment that it happens, learning to go, I'm not gonna resist this, he's gone, that's it. I'm not gonna judge it, this is good or bad, because we don't know. You don't know if, thank goodness he's gone because he was a dickhead, right? And there's another guy around the corner, or maybe you just have some work to do on yourself because it's not all about dudes, right? And non-attachment, and not attaching yourself to the dude or to the story that maybe he was telling or you were telling in your head about the future, right? It's all about, if you find yourself telling a story about anything, for better or for worse, you're in dangerous territory. As soon as you say something about the future with a guy, for example, You say, I met this guy, he's so handsome, I'm imagining what we're gonna look like as a couple, I'm imagining going to the opera together, I'm imagining. It feels really good, it's a little dopamine hit in the moment, but it also means that then that whole narrative has to be grieved when it turns out that he's not the guy, right? So being present is the key. Being present is learning to be in the situation and just exist. There is nothing but the present moment, right? Anxiety, fear about the future, all of those stories are not true, right? It's all bullshit. You know, regret is, pain about the past. And what we're trying to learn here is to not attach ourselves to anything. So that means in this moment, I love you. We are together. I'm here with you. I'm present with you. I'm giving of myself. I'm receiving from you. And it's amazing, but I'm not telling a story like this situation is so whatever. I'm not telling a story. I'm just living it, which is really hard to do. But as soon as you tell those stories about something, your relationship with someone, expectations begin, and you start to invest your energy, yourself, your identity into whatever that situation is, right? So we give ourselves to our friends, we give ourselves to our family, we give ourselves to our partner and our kids. But can you give yourself in a way where you're not attaching yourself and your identity and your ego to that person and what they are to you? It's like me being like, you are my boyfriend, you are my friend. Instead of just being like, I see who you are as a soul, as an energy, I see your essential self, and I value you and you value me, and we are in this together, just kind of sharing this experience, right? But as soon as you attach your identity to, this is my kid, then they do something that you wouldn't do, or that you, that's outside of what you think is okay. And instead of just treating them like a soul on a journey, your ego gets involved, right? You are attached. Yourself is attached to their actions because they are an extension of your ego, right? Same thing as when your boyfriend or the guy that you're seeing acts in a certain way, and your self-worth is attached to it because you have put so much on the relationship, right? You're so attached to him because you've told a story in your head, because you've said, you resist the fact that he's going, that you feel it, right? And then you judge it and you tell the story, right? You tell the story, and then you're so attached that when it comes time for you no longer to be together, he's already taught you whatever he's there to teach you, and he's gone. You can't just go, okay, what did I learn from this, and move forward. Instead, you're so attached that it feels like you're losing a part of yourself. So ladies, when we meet someone new, can you think, what is this here to teach me? Maybe we have a long road together ahead, and maybe we don't. But in any case, you have been put in my path to teach me something. And then once it's done, instead of saying, it shouldn't have been that way, you can go, what is it that he was here to teach me? What is it in myself that he was here to open up so that I'm ready for whatever it is I'm being prepared for in the future, right? To go, like, I hadn't dated for like 18 months, and then I met somebody last fall, and it opened me up again to wanna meet somebody. And without that, even though it was very painful because it didn't turn out how I wanted, without it, I wouldn't be in the same place that I am now, where I'm open to, maybe meeting somebody and having something real. Who knows? And even this situation, I don't know where it's gonna lead me, but I know that I have things to learn. I know that I have things to offer. And instead of, and when something goes wrong, I try to see it like a cloud in the sky. Like when you're a kid and you would lay in a meadow and you would watch the wind blow the clouds, right? If that's how we think about these things, whether it be dating, right? You're dating and every guy that's not the guy, instead of belaboring it in your head, you don't get attached and you just let it go. You go, is there a lesson here for me to learn? Is there a takeaway here for me? You know, and then you just let it go. And that's it. And when you get your eviction notice or you're being rent evicted in Vancouver, you go, you know, maybe I'll end up staying in this apartment and maybe I won't. But in any case, there is, you know, the universe is kind. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that whatever it is that you're struggling with, you can start to think of it in this way. Like everyone has their own kind of path, and everybody is suffering. Suffering is universal. And Buddhism is not a religion, right? It's kind of just an arrow pointing us inward, right? Pointing us toward embodying ourselves and living our best life in peace. And that's it. So anybody who will say like, oh, Buddhism, golden statues and worshiping false gods, just doesn't know very much about Buddhism. So hopefully, if that's what your parents believe, because that's probably what my parents believed, you know, there will be a time when you guys can talk about it in an open way and they can see that it's actually just a helpful set of ideas that helps you to turn inward and find peace and presence and let go of ego and attachments. Michael Gungor said in a recent edition of the Liturgist podcast that his Buddhism actually informs or helps him to become the Christ in his Christianity. I don't know if he would call himself a Christian, but it's that kind of thing. And I think that I would probably call myself, I don't know if I would classify myself as anything, to be honest, but if I had to, I would say that I'm kind of a Buddhist Christian. But I don't subscribe to all of the like literal sola scriptura bullshit that a lot of fundamentalists or evangelicals subscribe to. I just don't, because I think if we talk about something that was, you know, cool culturally, you know, thousands of years ago, that women and minorities and the LGBTQ plus community are going to get screwed over because we don't live in Bible times in the Middle East. So anyway, I'm still learning. When I learn more, I will share it with you. But this helps me when I have something really hard happen to not tell a story about it. As soon as you find yourself telling a story about something, stop. Like, go, okay, I'm telling a story. Take a couple of deep breaths and observe yourself. Just observe. Be kind and observe the fact that your ego wants to tell a story about it. Those stories are the first fruits of anxiety. They are the first thing that leads you into anxiety. Without the story, there is no anxiety. So, if you can learn not to attach yourself, not to judge, not to resist, then you can find peace as the trajectory is up and the universe is kind. All right, guys, if you like the content, please subscribe and ring the little bell. I do 3 minimum shows of different content a week, music and comedy and this kind of stuff, so that we can connect and all of us can feel a little bit more seen. Anyway, I love you. I mean it. If you're into it, please share it on your social. All right, see you next time.